So, welcome everyone. It is a slightly odd week for everybody with potentially having had Otago Anniversary Day weekend and then Easter next weekend. But obviously, I've already had somebody asking if there will be a recording for this. So we're going to go ahead with a meeting, and we're going to talk about upcoming plans. And also Kahli's got some updates for us, and she's probably all enthused after a visit to the Gold Coast, so we're looking forward to hearing from Kahli later. I have had, and I didn't write it down. So, hi Martin, how are you? Good to see you on the call. So first up, what I want to do now, Erin is joining, she's going to be a few minutes late. But what I would like to do is introduce you all to meet the committee, meet the main position holders, because although we have talked and introduced ourselves at various times over the course of our meetings, it would be really nice if we can jump in. And maybe Sue, would you be happy to introduce yourself as our new secretary?
Hi, I think I know everyone but Ruby. I'm not sure. Would Ruby be from Southland? That would be interesting. Hi, Ruby. No? Okay. Yeah, I'm Sue Marshall, and yeah, I've got the honor of being secretary, and which doesn't mean a whole heap, except I take the notes and make sure the AGM works and keep records. I'm a producer, writer, and general dog stalker, really. Yeah. And yeah, love to meet you all. Fantastic.
Right. And Sue and I had a really nice on and off catch up during the Harbour Street Oamaru Jazz Festival over the weekend. So we kept running to each other at various locations and amidst various musicians, which was really nice to see Sue and her husband here at the Jazz Festival. Great.
That was great.
Yeah. Okay, Fiona. Fiona is our chairperson. So Fiona, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. Sorry about the glare on my glasses. Hasn't happened before, so I'm not quite sure what's happening. But anyway, I went to the American Film Institute in LA and did their producing program. So I've worked on a lot of short films. I've done TV, reality set as producer and production manager. I guess my main thing is script consulting. I've done lots and lots of script consulting over the years, and is something I would like to start doing again. Haven't done it for a few years because I came back to New Zealand and just a lot of personal stuff had gone on. I've moved from Auckland down to Dunedin a year and a half ago and met these wonderful people, and I'm really honoured to be chairperson and really look forward to getting to know you all and hopefully getting things really happening for the Southern Film Collective.
Great. Thanks, Fiona, and thank you very much for coming on board. It's really good to have you with us. Okay, now, Erin, I see you've just come on. I do know you're walking the dog, but Erin is our treasurer, as in appointed very recently. And she also, she's possibly going to be able to come on video and introduce herself. Can you do that, Erin, for us?
Oh, hi. Sorry, guys. Beanie in my jacket. It's freezing. Hi. Yes, thank you. Sorry for doing the dog walkie thing at the moment. It's a little bit of a double juggle of all of the things. Yeah, I'm Erin. What else? What are we saying? You all know who I am. I've got a little production company in Wanaka, and yeah, really excited to be part of the team and figure out what a treasurer does.
Thank you, Erin. And the other thing that Erin's been learning over the last year or two is producing. And Erin is the wonderful producer of Planet 13, the recently filmed and currently in editing and post-production short film. That's happening been happening in Wanaka. So
Yeah,
yeah, great stuff,
Which is
Erin. I'm sure that's still
very, it is, and it's very scary. I can't actually watch any of the footage, so I'm learning that feeling that a lot of people talk about when they're like, oh, I can't even watch what we've made. So yeah, so all part of the fun, I'm sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Erin. Carry on with the dog walking and listen and,
Thank
put
thank
your 2
you.
cents worth in if you need to at any point. Would like
Will
to.
do. Will do. Thanks, guys.
Great. So currently, as in we're just pulling together the committee at the moment. Oh, interesting. We've got Patrick entering twice. That's fine. Sometimes that happens. You need to come in on different devices. Okay. Bex, would you like to just introduce yourself? Bex is on the committee with us, which is great. We're really good to have some of her experience on board and also helping with our big event for this year, which is great. So Bex.
Kia ora koutou. Yep, my name's Bex. I'm in Dunedin, but I have based myself out of Wanaka a few years back, and sort of based prior in Wellington and Auckland and shot all around the country. I've been in the industry for about 22 years now, and I am definitely very passionate about sustainable industry and seeing it thrive in our region, and I don't want to work anywhere else but Southland and Otago, because I've done it and it's cool, but I'd much rather do it here. And I love working with all the crew and the cast and the talent and stuff and the businesses that are supporting. So that's kind of quite in essence for me, is to just everyone having a piece of the pie is a little bit of a kaupapa on what I'd like to see for the future. I have got some productions in development as a producer, and also I have sort of line produced beach films and a couple of other little ditties and do other different roles. And yeah, that's me.
Cool. Thanks very much, Rebecca. That's great. And yeah, it's good to have you on board and have your introduction. If anyone else wants to introduce themselves, they're most welcome to. Otherwise, we will carry on and we will definitely be hearing from Kahli shortly. So that's all good. Okay, great. So Bex, Stefan Roche from Film Dunedin and Film Otago Southland and I went down to Invercargill last Thursday. We have been looking at, I think some of you may know, we've been planning on, as part of the Film Collective, to have an event this year. And we were looking at holding it in Dunedin, but for a number of reasons, we started to consider the possibility of holding it in Invercargill. And so we went down there, we did a networking event where we met a number of students and tutors at SIT, which was really good. And we have the decision has been made that we will, what the plan is for our event in September is to hold a one-day filmmakers summit, the Southern Filmmakers Summit, and also to add on a masterclass with the AI Forum people from Wellington on the Sunday. So basically we'll do a Saturday full day of Filmmakers Summit and then do an AI masterclass for those that want to stay on the Sunday. And we are looking at basically having AI as being our focus for the future frontiers that we've discussed as being our theme for the summit. So which I'm really excited about. Bex, would you like to?
Just wanted to add on that. We felt that obviously AI is such a hot topic at the moment, and that's something that will definitely bring bums to seats. They are going to try and see whether it's possible to do a morning and afternoon on the Sunday, so we can maximize the number of people that can place it, because it's only 30 per session. Is that right, Maddie?
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we just all kind of collectively felt that if we can really bring that one day to like planned out to be spectacular on the Saturday with the network drinks afterwards, that would be quite a good introduction to this and a little less costly, and it sort of maximizes one day everyone can enjoy. Those that stay over to attend the masterclass, or if you want to you can still go home. So that was kind of the logic. Hey Maddie.
Yeah, so and yeah, we've got quite a bit of enthusiasm from different areas. Business South is looking at coming on board to help support it. We'll be applying for different funding, and we're going to make it really affordable for people to head down to Invercargill either for the day or for overnight, or attend from Invercargill. As we one of our focuses is to really rejuvenate filmmaking in the regions. And while we have two main regions with Dunedin and Queenstown, it's really good to start looking further afield and seeing things happening elsewhere. And we did really find it quite really interesting talking to the folk in Invercargill about what's happening down there. Okay, any questions or suggestions regarding the upcoming summit? Sue?
Good. I just wondered what Patrick had to say, and maybe even Ruby, because they're going to be at the forefront of this. So, no.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hey,
Yes,
Ruby.
I can.
Yeah, great to hear from you.
Yeah, kia ora koutou. I'm Ruby, and I'm actually an animation, but also VFX and gaming tutor at SIT. I haven't heard of the summit, and it sounds really cool. Were you thinking of having it at Te Reo o Te Huia, our campus?
Yes, that is the plan.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds like a really great place to have it. And our students, our second years, actually, they create their own event in one of my classes at the end. So having it in September would be cool to see something be done, and it is an event in the industry, and it's not, it's not uncommon that filmmakers might be making events and things like that. So that's really cool to hear. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Ruby. Yeah, no, that's great. You've got some really, really clued up and interesting students with you down there. And I think from looking at the facilities, what they're going to be coming up with as they finish their second year will be really interesting, which is cool. Okay, the other thing that we've been working on is getting the website launched, just doing a few more updates that I need a little bit of help with. We've got the website very nearly ready to go, which is good, and getting our incorporation in place with our committee and our membership in place. So what will happen once we're incorporated is that we're going to align with the Film Otago Southland year, which means I think Patrick's having a little bit of difficulty with his connection too, because he's been coming and going a little bit. Anyway, what we would like to do is aligning with the year for Film Otago Southland, because that makes absolute sense when we're so well connected with them. So for the first year, membership will be free, and the year will actually carry on through until the end of June in 2025. And by that stage, we're going to have hundreds of members, and we're going to look at what the membership fee will be at that point when going forward. But up until the end of June 2025, the membership will be free. And we'll pull together in the next few weeks our incorporation and becoming a society. And we will continue with our monthly members Zooms. We will set up some more networking events like we had in Invercargill, in Central, Queenstown Lakes and Dunedin, in order to give people the opportunity to get together in person. much as Zoom is a really, really handy tool, it's not quite the same as meeting in person, which is really cool. And we'll be supporting any other events that are on in the region. I think you may well all be aware about the Southern Pilots Program. That has closed. We know no details yet until Script to Screen have gone through their processes as far as finding out who's on board and what kind of TV series are going to be in the pipeline being worked on. But that's a really exciting project that will be coming through over the next year or two, basically, as people pull together their projects. So we're excited about that one. If anyone is looking and working on their short film Otago applications, that closes on the 8th of April, so approximately almost 2 weeks' time. And that's for development funding for scripts, for short film scripts. So that one is coming up fairly soon as well. All right, so we've got Kahli here from Queenstown Lakes. Kahli is Film Otago Southland co-coordinator, co-lead with Stefan, and also so Queenstown Lakes and Film Otago Southland is Kahli's bag. And Kahli, you've been away recently.
So I have. You introduced me there, so I don't really need to do it. But yeah, for those of you who I haven't met, I manage the film office in Queenstown Lakes and then co-manage Film Otago Southland alongside Stefan. So we kind of dip in and out of these meetings. We, want this to feel like the industry has ownership over the collective, but also it's good for us to pop in and give updates from our side when we can. So I'm joining tonight because I was in Australia recently, and while I was there, I went to the Screen Forever conference on the Gold Coast. So just wanted to give a bit of a debrief because there were some learnings from the conference that I found really interesting. Might be common knowledge for you already. I'm not sure, what you know and what you don't know, but definitely interesting things for me to learn. So I thought I would give a little bit of a recap. So Screen Forever is a conference run by the Screen Producers Association in Australia. So it's their equivalent of SPARTA. The conference is kind of a mix of the SPARTA conference and Big Screen Symposium, but even bigger. More people, bigger venue, more content. Because the primary audience is Australian producers, the focus was on Australian production and local content, more so than, the wider industry and international production and all that. But it still was really interesting, mostly to sort of figure out what the similarities and differences are between the Australian and New Zealand industry. And my main conclusion is that there's a lot more money and government funding in the Australian industry proportionate to the population. I can't say because obviously it's a much bigger population in Australia. So of course there'd be more government funding. But I'm from Australia originally. So, it's different government systems as well. We've got state governments that have, a whole different funding pool that we don't have here in New Zealand. They've got federal government, state government, and then regional councils. And the state film commissions are a key source of incentives and funding for production. So, that's a whole other pot for productions to be able to dip into. So lucky them. But there are those differences, but there are also a lot of similarities in terms of the challenges that they're facing and that the New Zealand industry is facing. So I pulled out a couple of key themes that kept cropping up in the sessions I went to. So one of the big ones was streaming regulation. A lot of you would know that SPARTA put a call out, I think it was towards the end of last year, for a levy and regulation on streamers. So the idea is for there to be a levy that the streamers pay that then go into a fund that funds local, so in our case, New Zealand content. I missed or didn't realise at the time that this was actually part of a global call that the Australian Producers Association, the Canadian Media Producers Association, the Screen Producers of Ireland, and potentially some others all put out a similar call to their governments at the same time. So this was actually New Zealand being unified with other producers associations around the world calling for a levy on the streamers. Canada already has a similar framework on their Canadian-owned cable and satellite companies where they pay a 5% levy that goes into a fund for producing Canadian content. So there is a framework there that exists. Ireland has a law that's in draft stage, and Australia is looking to legislate this as well. So it's kind of a movement that's happening around the world. This then opened up a discussion about what is local content. And I know we've had that discussion and debate here in New Zealand, particularly when the rebates were being looked at. And, in Canada, they definitely go more on the industrial side of things, like who's attached to the projects, where's the money being spent, who are the key creatives, rather than what the content actually is, because there's a risk of that turning into tokenism, and producers and production companies from outside the country coming in and being like, well, there's koalas in it, so it's Australian content, which isn't authentic. So that was interesting to learn that. And on the topic of authenticity, that kept coming up in terms of content trends. There were quite a few sessions on content trends. A lot of this I seem to have heard before, so it didn't seem super new, but I'm not sure if you've heard or what you've been hearing, but authenticity was a big one in terms of content that's being commissioned and doing well at the moment. A real emphasis on quality, premium. Unfortunately, it was a bit of an oxymoron, because it seems like budgets are being cut everywhere, but that high budget, high production value projects are also what everyone's looking for. So it seemed like there's going to be more of a focus on premium content, and perhaps the mid-tier content might suffer as a result, which is probably not good to hear, but I suppose worth knowing about, because I guess it's higher risk than small budgets, but potentially lower reward than high budgets, so it's a bit of a tricky area. It was acknowledged that content that's doing well in the cinemas at the moment is quite edgy and experimental, if you think Poor Things or Saltburn, but they're quite established filmmakers who can take these risks. But there's the hope that because these established filmmakers are taking these risks, that it then opens doors for more emerging filmmakers to also take these risks, because it shows that there's an audience there for that kind of quirky, out there, edgy content, which is promising. Changes to streamers, which I'm sure we all know about. Streamers now have ads on them. I'm sure you've noticed that, which is an interesting development. It might lead to an upturn in advertising production, which would be good for regions like Queenstown, because we get quite a lot of commercial productions coming through, but it is looking like it will change the streaming landscape, and also means that broadcasters might be competing with streamers for advertising, and we know broadcasters are already facing a lot of challenges, so that could potentially be a new one. A rise in streamers cutting back on commissioning original content, but growing acquisitions of existing IP. But then an argument was made, well, if you stop commissioning original content, at some point you're going to run out of IP to acquire. So there should still be a push to be creating, commissioning original content. I noticed a trend in book adaptations doing quite well. So I'm from Queensland originally, and Boy Swallows Universe, Netflix series based on the book, has done really well. Dark City the Cleaner is a Christchurch example of that, which I thought was interesting. I thought there's potentially an opportunity there. I haven't quite got my head around it, but we talk about scripts being written here in the region, but could we even take a step back and look at, well, are there books being written here, or can we tap into the non-film writing community a bit more to see if there's potential there, because it seems like literary adaptations seem to do quite well. Big push for, I've been hearing this for years, local content that has universal and international appeal. It's true, I only put in inverted commas just because I feel like we've been hearing it for years, and that still seems to be the case. So it's something that Australia is looking to do, and I know we've been looking to do it in New Zealand for years. That sort of New Zealand hyperlocal content that international audiences will be drawn to. There was a really interesting session on creating an Australian screen brand. So what does the world know Australia for? And is that something that the Australian screen industry can fabricate themselves, or does someone else decide it for you? And that made me think about, well, what is our New Zealand screen brand, and what are we doing to construct that? From my conversations at the conference, in the social settings and the networking, whether we like it or not, we're known for being a beautiful country. Obviously we like that. That's not a bad thing. Peter Jackson, Lord of the Rings, Taika Waititi, that's those are the things that everyone says. So whether or not New Zealanders agree with that, that is, you know, what we're known for. And is there an opportunity to lean into that and build off of that? Because that is currently the New Zealand brand, at least on the Australian stage, but I would assume on the global stage as well. What else was there? I wrote down a few learnings from hearing about the film commissions, the state film commissions, and how they work, but I don't know if that's as interesting for you. They do a lot of great things in the talent development space, so I would love to be inspired by their talent development programs. It's just, like I say, they're operating on much bigger budgets and resourcing than us, but that doesn't mean that we can't look at what they're doing and try to do that on a smaller level here with what we've got. So definitely jotted down quite a few ideas about how they work. There's an interesting company called Screenworks. It's a not-for-profit organisation that's dedicated specifically to developing regional screen talent in Australia. So I thought that was really interesting and something that we'd all want to know more about. I can pop a link. I can distribute a link or pop it in the chat after this. So it'll be interesting to see what they're doing and how they work. Co-production kept coming up. Co-production seemed to be increasingly popular as a way to fund your project and get it on international platforms, and that you can be thinking about that when you're writing your scripts. Does this have co-production potential? There's a feeling that projects that are too domestic or too small wouldn't have co-production potential, so something to keep in mind when you're developing projects and pitching them. And then the other big thing was AI kept coming up. It was the old, you know, it's here to stay. There's nothing we could do about it. We need to use it as a tool. I really liked an analogy that someone, you know, the key problems are around copyright and who owns the rights, and obviously the risk of AI taking jobs. There was also talk about transparency, like audiences have a right to know how their content has been made and generated. There was an interesting analogy between how food products have to label what their ingredients are on them. Should content have to be labeled with how it was created, and if AI was used, you know, should that be more transparent? Organic versus GMO content, could we move into a world where that has to be listed, which I thought was an interesting comparison. But there are also talks about the benefits of AI and how it can democratize creativity and make creative possibilities more accessible to new talent. And there was a whole bunch of resources on AI that the panel freely shared. There's a whole PDF of them that they sent to, there was a QR code that you could scan and download. So I've also got that, which I'm happy to share around with you, a whole bunch of articles and links to AI platforms.
Can I ask you a question, Kahli?
Yeah, I was just finishing up as well. So
I'll let you finish and then I'll ask a question.
No, that was it. That was the last theme was AI. So yeah.
Okay, so was there a consensus about labeling AI on film, like you know, you label your foods? Was there a consensus on what people thought?
Yeah, I mean, that was a comment made by an individual panelist, but I'd say that there were maybe 3 sessions of these that I went to that discussed AI, and it seemed like transparency was agreed upon. I wouldn't say there was a huge amount. These panels weren't. I would have liked for them to be a little more fiery and for there to be a bit of a difference in opinion. Everyone seemed to just agree with each other on a lot of things, but they did seem to think that transparency of when and how AI is used would be really important going forward.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's probably important for us. I don't know if your average film goer out there would kind of, if it'd take away from their story experience if in the credits it was generated by AI or whatever, however you put it.
Yeah, and the thing is, most people don't even watch the credits, so are they?
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to hope more people do, but you know, a lot of people get up and leave when they start to roll. So there was an instance where actually it was in the recent Anthony Bourdain documentary they did after he died. I remember watching it at the beginning and thinking that his voice over at the beginning sounded like it was AI generated, but then thinking, oh no, that's weird for them to use his voice and for him to be saying commentary and voiceover that he never actually said. And then I looked it up, and it was true that it was AI generated, and that when audiences found out, they did feel quite upset that they did not so much that it was done, but that it wasn't explicitly said this is a AI recreation of. So it, I say audiences. I don't know what the percentage of the audience. I felt quite cheated by it, especially someone who's passed away. Yeah, it felt quite strange, but I probably think about these things a bit potentially more than some people do.
Well,
so,
I think most filmmakers, but I was just thinking of the general public out there, and probably for documentary or real type stuff. I understand that, but I was thinking more of if it was generated, for your fiction films and stuff. I don't know. It was just a thought. I don't know how people would really. Probably in this day and age, people want to know because that's the way social media is. So
I think that question you asked was sort of like not necessarily a problem, but it was something I thought about the conference as a whole. And like most conferences, is a lot of the discussion seemed very relevant to the filmmaking community, but not necessarily tapping into what the wider public thinks, which I think can be a problem at any conference when you've just got people in an industry talking to each other about the same things. But I mean, that is the question: is what do audiences beyond the filmmaking community care about?
It's a good question to think about, I think.
I think it's subjective depending on the content, because you think about things like Hallmark Christmas movies, which just spew out the same concept, which is what you're going to see that for, right? But where that you could probably do a lot more easier on an AI generation. But like you say, all those edgy ones like Saltburn and stuff that people are kind of hungry for, there's still, that's the kind of audience that I don't think would be wanting AI
or knowing it's
generation at all. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I agree that transparency seems to be quite important, but how important it is to the average moviegoer, the average streamer, consumer. And yet it does seem like it should at least be documented, if AI is in use, so that people have that option. And like you say, it's very much a people want to know. Whether they actually want to know, they want to have the opportunity to know, in order to be to not be have things held private from them that can perhaps impact their experience. So yeah, thanks, Kahli. That was good to hear what was going on there and some of your takeaways.
Anyone have any other questions on any of that?
Cool. Okay. Do you have anything else from Film Otago Southland or Queenstown Lakes that you wanted to share with us? And Stefan might have something too now that he's come on, but
Stefan's there.
Yes.
I'm still getting my head back into it. Sorry. So I came here prepared to give a debrief on that, but haven't quite got my head back into the rest of it yet.
No, that was great. Thanks, Kahli. No, I really appreciated that. And it was, and I think a little bit helpful in us thinking about, how we're going to theme our event and talking about AI and how, okay, we are focused on filmmakers, but it would be quite interesting to find out what, your average audience thinks as well about the whole use of AI, or whether they just, if it entertains me, I'm all good.
Yeah, is the AI day about like utilizing AI in the content creation cycle? Is it kind of looking more at the positives of it, or is it around policy and regulation, or do you know what the angle will be?
Not exactly. Stefan may have a little bit more idea because he's talked to the folk in Wellington that would be putting on the masterclass. I think it's, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe Stefan, are you free to give us a little bit of rundown on that?
Yep, but I won't turn my camera on. I just got out of bed with my little one. Putting him to bed, so apologies. But yeah, I'm still waiting to hear back from the AI forum on details. But I think Maddie, me and Bex have agreed that for the Southern Screen Summit, we would like to have a mixture of have a general sort of outlook on AI moving forward in the screen industry and what it means, but also
I think it was 250. I think they said they can seat. And
Oh,
there's
okay.
breakaway rooms as well.
Great. Great. And of course, they'll have all the tech stuff that we need. So that's
They've
good.
got all of it set up with projectors and like it's and also students who would probably really enjoy being part of helping on the day. So yeah, definitely, it's such a great facility if you haven't been there.
Would Stefan, would
yes,
there be it's okay, wake up.
Yep.
Would there be
I'm still awake.
I know, you're lying down with your little one maybe. Will there be any chance of travel incentives down to Invercargill for Dunedin people or Oamaru people
So Maddie, Bex, and myself have discussed that, well, I think we kind of agreed that we should apply with the NZFC Industry Development Fund, which is
Yeah.
open until 29th of April. And we came to the conclusion that when we put in an application, a funding application, we should ask for money that would cover additional line items. So what we don't want to do is make the funding application dictate if we can do the screen industry event or not. But for instance, what we can ask for is covering the costs for the AI masterclass the day after, or possibly 2 masterclasses back to back. Then potentially cover the costs for a event organizer or coordinator who we would contract for 2 weeks leading up to the event. And I guess potentially travel costs.
Yeah. Good.
So we need to find line items that we can put in, but don't prevent us from running the event. Because if NZFC doesn't support us, then that would mean there's no event happening.
Okay.
Hence us deciding that we will approach via Patrick and James from SIT approach, like the Invercargill Licensing Trust, the Community Trust, and maybe Great South to see if they will partially sponsor the event, and FOSS will put some funding towards it, as we've already agreed. But that's sort of the gist of it.
Okay, thanks, Steph.
But also we kind of thought if we start with the event at 10 a.m., people from Queenstown and Dunedin will be able to travel down to Invercargill in the morning. And if they don't want to stay for the evening get-together networking event, they can drive back home. So we'll try to make it as friendly as possible in terms of involved costs.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I recall is that like FOSS once, a good few years ago, funded a van and a driver to take people from Dunedin and Oamaru up to Christchurch for an event once, and it was up and back for the day, which was quite a long day, obviously, from Dunedin to Christchurch, but similar perhaps, and possibly even less than going to Invercargill. So perhaps that's something we could look at, including in one of our funding applications, to actually put on a van. And that's quite a good way for people to get to an event, because you actually have that additional networking opportunity as well, which can be good. So yeah, perhaps putting on a couple of shuttle buses from a couple of different venues could work quite well.
Might actually be something that the shuttle, like I just know, for example, here in Dunedin, there is a couple that are who might benefit on various ways, that would be willing to do a bit of a deal, mates rates, if they, getting themselves that way as well. And I'm sure there's probably someone that would be suitable in Queenstown to do the same.
Yeah. So
we can probably discuss all that at our core meetings.
Yeah, it'll be a good option. I'm sure people would be keen to take that up. Great. All right. So is there anything else either about the summit event or any other news that people would like to share before we finish off the meeting for tonight?
I was just going to say, just a little flag for those, either yourselves or someone you might know that might be interested. There is a slight possibility of a bit of a case study rollout for an educational piece that I've been working on with Toimai, and it's going to be happening in Hawke's Bay. But just they will need to look at pulling a national call out to those for different departments wanting to learn, either upskill or learn a new department altogether. It's in conjunction with Share the Knowledge, who have been doing these courses for about 6 or 7 years, but they now have got amalgamated with Toimai, a government agency, to make actual accredited content. It's been a really awesome project, and if it all goes ahead, they will be rolling it out so that anyone in it will only be a select few for this case study just to see how it goes, but they will be rolling it out nationally for about 24 different roles within the industry. It's like a classroom that would be based out of the Hawke's Bay, and I think at this stage it's set for around July, end of July, but just flagging it now, and once it's actually 100% good to go, I will make sure I pass on all the details for you guys.
Great, thanks, Bex. Stefan.
Yeah, so something I want to flag is in regards to the new round of the Industry Development Fund administered by NZFC. So in the past, NZFC ran a bespoke on-the-job training program, which was not administered through the funding pool, but essentially, if, let's say, you were a writer or more a director or producer, let's say, director or producer, and you wanted on-the-job training as in either a placement, an internship, or an attachment, so those are the 3 categories, you would get in touch with the NZFC talent development team and let them know that you're looking for an opportunity like what I just mentioned, that you had, for instance, a production company who, if you were to be a producer, would be happy to take you on as an intern for a project, or happy to organize a placement for you within their production company. So it was sort of yeah, quite not informal, but you would, as I said, get in touch with Jude O'Dale. So now what's happened apparently is that the on-the-job training scheme has been incorporated into the Industry Development Fund. And one consequence of that is that individuals can't apply for on-the-job training. And so if you are a producer or director who wants to have a placement or an internship or attachment, you need to find either a production company or a organization to apply for you on your behalf. So I'm mentioning this because I'm thinking, Kahli, maybe FOSS should, either FOSS or our funds, that could be another option. Should we put in an application with NZFC for the Industry Development Fund, which closes on the 29th of April, to say, okay, let's just say FOSS. FOSS puts in an application, we would like to have 3 slots for the next financial year, or either directors or producers, to be able to do a placement or an attachment. If we don't, then likely we are losing out, and the only option for producers or directors from our 2 regions to have a placement is if a production company applies on behalf, which is a lot more difficult to secure such a placement. So I just want to put that out there. The alternative is that the Filmmakers Collective applies once they're inaugurated, to say, okay, we want X many slots. In the past, you would be able to get up to 10K per placement per attachment.
I think it would possibly be a good thing for FOSS to do, and the Filmmakers Collective could write a letter of support outlining the need for new producers, new directors in the region, or further development for new and emerging ones already in action. So yeah, but I think we could definitely support that, but it may well be better coming from FOSS as a more established organisation. Any other thoughts on that?
I agree with you there, really. I think it probably would stand better on this occasion to start with FOSS.
So we'll definitely look at writing a letter of support and having a little bit of input into how that might work, but it seems like a good idea. I guess Stefan and Kahli, I guess you'll put that forward to the FOSS board. Yep, Patrick likes the idea. That's great. Yeah.
Can I ask, what do you guys think? How many slots should we try and reserve?
3 sounds quite good.
Directors, 2 producers.
Yep, 2 producers and a director. Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks, Stefan, for thinking of that one. That sounds good. Yep, the magic 3, says Patrick. Right. I was aware that the wonderful chat disappears, and anybody watching the recording doesn't know what's in the chat. So great. Okay, any other thoughts, final closing words from anyone? Looks like Fiona's about ready to head off. That's great. I think we could wrap this up with the last. Industry development also offers mentorships. Martin, is that the Industry Development Fund?
Yeah, I was just looking at what they are at the fine print.
Right.
So that for mentorships as well. I didn't know if that was a different level of engagement, whether you could sort of add some more in there.
True.
Add another person in there.
Yes. Yeah, a mentor role. Cool. Yeah, no, that's worth thinking about. Great. Okay. Great. Well, thank you, everyone. And yeah, good to catch up with you tonight. and good for us to see how an evening meeting works, although in between holidays is not necessarily a good indication of whether an evening or an afternoon works well, and I think we're going to probably alternate them over time. It will work quite well. Okay, thank you for your input, Kahli, Stefan, well, and everybody for your input tonight, and look forward to meeting up last Monday of April. We will be meeting again. Okay.
Thanks, Maddie.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Kahli, Bex, Martin, Patrick, Ruby, Stefan. Bye.